Well, let me get right in then so I don't waste any more of your time because I know you're a busy man. And
I'm totally not busy. I'm okay.
okay, okay. How are you? You doing okay?
Well, we're under pressure like anybody else in this country. It's like mourning.
Yeah.
Like somebody died in your family and you're mourning. So it's
Mm.
first week, second week, third week. It's already a month of mourning like that. And at 5 minutes to six, we had a siren going on because there was bombing around Tel Aviv. There
Mm.
was a rocket to Tel Aviv. So on the one side, we have to cope with the war going on. On the other side, we have the hostages that are not there,
Yeah.
and with it, a lot of people you know and friends. It's not easy, not
Yeah.
easy at all.
No, I
But
just got back from Ukraine and they're in the same situation in many ways. Theirs is a little bit different because a lot of people seem to be on, at least a lot of Americans are very pro-Ukrainian, and I've been amazed at the anti-Semitism that I have seen online, social media, on the news. I've quite taken back
ignorance.
by all of it. It very much is. We've already started the conversation. Let me introduce you to my audience. This is my friend Doron Bookshtein, and you were born in Kenya, and you moved to Israel about 16 years old, and you became a major in the special forces. And then later on, you studied at Harvard and got your PhD in political science. So I cannot get my news from media anymore. It's independent journalism is where I found I can get usually the best non-biased sources. And on this topic, the subject of Israel and Palestine, I said I need to talk to my friend, and I got to spend a week with you in Israel. My father and I years ago. My father, I don't know if you know this, recently passed too. So as you
I
talk
didn't know
about,
that.
yeah, about three
Sorry to
months
hear that.
ago. Yes, thank you. Just suddenly we were on vacation. The day he got home from vacation, his heart just stopped. So as you say, Israel and the Jewish people are in mourning. I can join you within that for the loss of my father, but I knew on this subject that you would be somebody that would give us a lot of wisdom and insight onto what is going on. And you have firsthand experience, but also you are very politically minded and have served in the forces there in Israel, and you currently live in Tel Aviv. So thank you for taking time to come on and educate some of us on this subject.
Thank you for letting me be on. Actually, I think it is the first time that I publicly talk about the situation right now. Somehow I felt that it's too early to talk. I didn't
Yeah.
write much in Facebook or in Telegram. And I didn't do that because I felt it's too early and not necessary, both. It's time to do, not to talk. And I'm not a doer right now. I'm too old to be doing it.
Mhm.
And the fighters are there. And you're puzzled with what to talk about and how to talk about it. Uh, and hesitant. Hesitant because you don't know everything. And
Mhm.
I think that I'll be the first one to be on screen that says I don't know everything
Mhm.
because 24 hours a day there's news in on our TV. 24 hours a day. It's
Yeah.
hard to believe. And people are glued to the TV because they want to hear about and they want to know, but actually nobody on the TV side knows as well. They only speculate.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about mainly of what I know and what is known. And one of the things that bothered me so much is how much anti-Semitism is growing, not only here in my little Middle East over here, but around the world by allowing ISIS in the different names to come out and in the name of the oppressed to be the oppressor. And when I see people that are friendly to everybody going online against Israel, when I especially see people that are in favor of rights, human rights, women rights, gay rights, go and support people that are all against those things without any hesitation, without
Yeah.
knowing. The ignorance is bothering, and the inhumane ignorance is bothering even more. It's okay for Jews to be killed. It's not okay for Jews to defend themselves.
Well,
And that creates a frustrating situation where you cannot fight it because it's not a, I would say, a something that is valid, something that has a dogma, something that has a background, because it's all based on ignorance, and that bugs me a lot.
it seems like because Hamas knows that it can't win an actual war, it can't win a ground war, it can't win an air war, and it doesn't have a good moral argument. It doesn't have a moral argument for its position. So what it can only do is fight an information war. And in that way, it seems like the American youth are desperate for something, some kind of movement to be a part of. We saw it with Black Lives Matters movement, that large groups of people who have no idea about the Middle East will jump on board with this train that starts moving down the tracks. No idea where the train came from, no idea where it's going, but they just see movement and they want to be a part of a movement. And so the movement of the week is the Free Palestine movement. And there's some words that I continue to hear in the news, on social media, and maybe maybe you could just speak about these words. The one that I hear the most is that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinian people.
A, there is no genocide. B, and that's much more important, if you just follow the news on debka.com, or if you just follow the news to a week later, not at the moment, you would realize that a lot of the propaganda is proven wrong and proven mistaken and proven unreal in just a week. But nobody wants to give information without a validity, not in Israel anyway.
Yeah.
And so we're late. We're like an hour after the train has left already.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we should release information. I think the best example is what happened with the hospital in Gaza, that we were accused of bombarding the hospital, and later on proven that it was a misled missile by the Islamic Jihad that hit the hospital. And there are some people that will not reflect it in any way. They would not go back of what they said because of that. But it took a week or 4 days to understand that. Same goes for other things. Right now is a media visit to Gaza, to under a hospital in Gaza with the IDF spokesman, that shows there were hostages over there.
Yeah.
That shows how they used the hospital as a launching area for rockets. That shows how they had prepared bombs to be attached to hostages. And it shows that, and there were media from all over the world over there. There were people that were picked by the military spokesman and taken in with the Navy commandos, and they saw all of that. Is it reflected in any way? It's not.
Yeah, I had a really tough time with, right after the attacks on October 7th, that there wasn't this mourning period or coming alongside the nation of Israel in moral and emotional support. It was almost instantly this Free Palestine movement.
Free from what? There was never a Palestine historically. Historically, there was never a state called Palestine. There was never a nation called Palestine before 1960s. There is no historical forefathers. There is no historical borders. There is no historical currency. Well, I can put up online right now a shekel made by Jews 2,000 years ago in this place over here. And I'm not saying that Palestinians should not have rights, but they should have rights because they want to have rights, not because they want to have my place.
Yeah.
And it shows in look at the demonstrations on American grounds and American universities. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, it means that there is no Israel.
Yes.
That's what they're for. Hamas didn't fight the war that they started now against us in order to win a battle, but to win within the Arab world their position. Within the Arab world, their position. Hamas butchered 5,000 Palestinians within the first month in 2006 when they took over.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody spoke about that.
Yeah.
They shot kneecaps of all the supporters of PLO, so they will not be able to be dead, but they will not be able to be functioning. Shot them in the kneecaps. Nobody speaks about that. But I don't want to build my morals according to their morals. People that are raping a 12-year-old, holding her until her hips were broken, and videoing it while doing it, is not people that I want to be part of. It's not people that I want to be even close to in morals. And I definitely don't want to be compared to them. So I cannot do things this way. As a state, as a country, we cannot do the things this way. We cannot be butchering people. We cannot do a killing unsuspected people and unconnected people. And we have a corridor for people that are not part of the Hamas fighting corps, and they are using that corridor. Do you know that they were shooting their own people for trying to get away from battle?
Yeah, I heard some of that.
I have footage of that.
Yeah.
And so we
So
opened
as
the
people are
corridor.
trying to leave,
Yeah, and they shoot them in the
Israel opens
back.
a corridor, Hamas is shooting the people who are
that
trying
they
to leave.
wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
And today there were incubators that are self-standing, that are not connected to power, sent to the Shifa hospital, and it was rejected. Hamas did not allow them to take it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to be in the Shifa hospital within this night or the next night, and we're going to change things over there too. But I don't think it'll make a difference, because most of the opposition is not based on knowledge, it's based on ignorance. And I don't know how to handle it personally.
Yeah.
I think that the more people with morals will stand for Israel, better we are, not only in the United States, but in the world. When I have France that have a huge majority of Muslims in it, and they're just waiting to have it in their doorstep. And their President Macron was standing for Israel and came into Israel, and the next day he's saying that Israel should not butcher women and children in Gaza. We're not. Mm-hmm. We're not. But it's like walking the street and somebody yelling across the street to you, "Your sister is a prostitute." Now go and prove to the world that you don't have a sister.
Mm-hmm. And if, well, there's a couple of things. I listened to Ben Shapiro debate at Oxford, which should be a ground of high intelligence. And there were these Arab women grilling him and asking him questions, making all sorts of accusations. And they would say, well, they need to free Palestine. And he'd say, which part? And they would say, all of it. So ultimately, all of their arguments about Israel's doing this, Israel is doing that, is the cover for the fact that they just don't want Israel to exist.
Until 1967, we did not have the West Bank. There was not a single Jew living in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, or East Jerusalem. It didn't prevent them from trying to kill us and to eliminate us and to shoot at us and to terrorize us. 1948 to 1967, there was not a single Jew on the Golan Heights or in East Jerusalem.
Yeah.
It made no difference. So it's not the fact that we're in the West Bank. It's not the fact that we have settlers over there. We evacuated all the settlers from the Gaza Strip before we gave it to the PLO. PLO lost it to Hamas, but that's a different story. But there are people that have morals and have ethics, and they stop using it once it's becoming the issue of Israel. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy to handle it. But I think that it's a long marathon. And if we'll treat it as a marathon run, maybe we'll win eventually. Maybe. I'm not so sure. But the moral support that I'm getting from my American Christian friends is unique. Mm-hmm. It's really unique. And I see it on my communication with people, and I see it also with the support of the country, and I see it with people that came over here to help pick tomatoes, which don't have any manpower right now. People from Montana came, 40 people from Montana came to work for a week in picking tomatoes in the southern side of Israel. So there are good people. It's not that everybody's there, but we're in the United States, you're talking about the crust of the East Coast and the West Coast. And those people with their liberalism think that they're supporting liberalism, but they're supporting people that don't have the morals and ethics that they have.
So for some of you who might not know, geographically speaking, even where Israel is, because I don't trust the American school system has taught our geography very well. Israel is a small little strip that's surrounded by Arab nations on every side.
There are
And
17 Arab nations around us.
And at one point,
have
every
the
single one of them
Mediterranean on
has
one
tried to
side.
eliminate you. Yeah.
We have the Mediterranean on the one side, and we have the desert in Jordan on the other side. We have Egypt to the south, and Syria and Lebanon to the north. I'm not going to talk about them right now. And you have the Irani hand that they got all the way to the Houthis in Yemen to shoot a sophisticated missiles. They're called unmanned aircraft, but they are sophisticated missiles towards Israel that are running very slow and very low, so it's hard to detect them on the way, but we are successful so far.
Yeah. Yeah, the
But
Israel
the
Iron Dome
geography and the historical geography does not make morals. No. And people that are supposed to have morals that are not holding them, and they are using Facebook titles as real information, how do you deal with that? How do you go on with that? So the only way is to run a marathon run and to try to prove your stand and to try to prove where you are at, and to try and do at the time against this ISIS that is, we're not the only ones that are threatened by it, because next is Europe and next is the United States. What do you think that today's Harvard demonstration that says that we're calling for intifada around the world is against me in Harvard? It's against you.
Yeah, Hamas doesn't want to eliminate Israel. It says Jews everywhere. So if there is a talk of genocide, it's not on the Israeli side. I mean,
but it's
the
Christians
population's
before
doubled.
Jews.
Yeah.
But it's Christians before Jews. They killed Christians in North Africa, in Libya, if you remember the execution of the priests. They killed Christians before they killed Jews.
There was a sign in New York.
There is no difference between Hamas and ISIS. It's the same thing. Yeah. The same brutality. Only the pleasure of brutality is in order to terrorize the other side, and that's what happens right now.
There was a sign in New York. Go ahead.
Do you think that the videos with the GoPros, how they're raping and how they're butchering and how they're killing and cutting limbs and cutting heads of people? Babies burnt, burned.
Yeah.
And they don't do that in front of a GoPro because they want to brag to their friend. They do it in order to terrorize the other side. That's how we get it. They put it up on the network.
Yeah.
There are 2,000 terrorists that were captured in the first 2 days. The information they gave us was enough to tear you apart, really, mentally, if you would read it and if you see it and if you I'll show you the videos. But we're not showing the video out of respect to the families. Yesterday there was a video released by Hamas of an Israeli girl soldier that was taken by them. It says it's the 4 days after she was taken, and then it shows a picture of her dead a few days after, and they say it's the bombing by Israel that killed her. Where you see there is a bullet hole in their head. Israelis don't shoot bullets from the air. She was murdered. A woman that was raped, a young woman that was in the party, in a peace-loving and a music lovers party, and she was raped. And it shows how she's going to the kidnappers are taking her to a vehicle, and she's bleeding. All her pants are bleeding, and then she was shot.
Yeah, I saw that one.
She was shot then.
Yeah.
And one of the women that was executed in Kibbutz Be'eri was one of the leaders of the peace movement, Women Makes Peace of Israel.
Mm.
And on her fridge, there was a list of people from Gaza Strip that she needs to take to the hospital on Sunday after the attack.
Mm.
Because that's what she was doing. She was taking them from the border to the hospitals to be treated and to come back to Gaza as a volunteer. And she was murdered by them. So I can go on with it, and it brings tears to my eyes, and at least I don't need eye drops because of that.
Right.
But how do you fight immorality as such that is supported by people that are supposed to be moral? There are people that are supposed to be with us. There are people that, for all different reasons of the world, should have been in favor of Israel and supporting of Israel, and they're going against Israel, and I call it blunt anti-Semitism.
Yeah. There was a sign in New York at the large protest, and a lot of people think so. I don't want to attribute to stupidity what can be attributed to ignorance, but some of it is just stupidity. There's a lot of people that are joining these Free Palestine protests. I don't know that is a Hamas headbanner that somebody's wearing, and they might see a Nazi symbol on some of these banners and go, "Oh, that's just." But if I was at a parade, or if I was at an event that had the support of Nazis, I'm like, I need to get out of here. But yet they seem to be growing. And one of the signs said, if something to do with there's the white side and the right side, where it's taken Caucasians like myself and Jews, which can be all different colors, and mixed them together and said it's those who are paler skin versus all those with darker skin. And so it's an anti-Semitism. It's just a blunt racism that's really hard to understand. I don't know how you could categorize that and see that and go, yeah, that's right, that's good. But these people are surrounded by supporters. It boggles the mind.
And you see people that are supposed to be in favor of human rights, in favor of minority rights, and they are against us, and they're in favor of people that don't have a one peanut size ethics and morals that they supposed to support. So how can I deal with that? You tell me.
You have Palestinian friends, and when we were together, you would introduce us to some of them. How do the Palestinians in Israel feel about what's going on?
Not only in Israel, but also in the West Bank. The Israeli Arabs are very much Israelis today.
Yeah.
And they suffer from the ISIS Hamas as well. They were butchered by them as well. They were kidnappees that are Arabs. There are Bedouins that were kidnapped. There was a paramedic that was hung on a pillar on an electric post, so he will see how they are killing the others. He was hanging there for 9 hours until he died. And an Arab woman with a head cover, with a hijab, etc., and she was butchered by them as well. And so, and leaving 9 kids by themselves with their father that was not there. She was driving a car and she was murdered by them. So they're Israelis, and today more than ever in the past they were Israelis. Arabs in the West Bank are divided into 3. There are Arabs over there that are Christians that are terrified from winning by the Hamas, and they were planning to go all the way to the West Bank. By the way, that was their original plan. And the Arab Christians are suffering from the surrounding. There are extremists that are Hamas supporters in the West Bank, and they're fighting against the Israeli forces. Nobody's talking about it, but we're trying our best to hold it down and not to let it start and not to let it thrive. And there are people that are just waiting for it to go on, to go away. And a lot of my friends are just laying low. A lot of my Palestinian friends are just laying low, waiting for the wind to go.
Yeah.
just put a Facebook ad for one of the families in Bethlehem that have a shop over there, a big store,
Mm.
and they're
Hmm.
trying to sell online because they're not going to have anybody, and they need
Yeah.
their power as well. And nobody's going to give them any fiscal support, any monetary support.
Mm.
They are chewing their errands that they did between COVID and now, which is not a long time.
Yeah.
And I have a state that will support me. I have a state that will take care of me. Hopefully, they didn't
Yeah.
start yet, but
Yeah.
hopefully they will. They don't. They don't have
Well,
anyone to support them, and that's why I put the ad on Facebook so people will buy
yeah.
their Christmas gifts over there. Hopefully,
Mm. Good.
we'll see. Anyway, the
I'll post
fact is,
if I can I get that link and I'll post it at the bottom of this video. And if anybody wants to
yeah, I'll
support those
send I'll
families,
send you
yeah,
the link.
great. Yeah.
And the what bothers me the most is that people are supposed to have ethics, supposed to have morals, and they don't follow it. They follow Facebook titles instead of that. They follow TikTok
Yeah.
instead of following information. And it didn't start yesterday. It started a long time ago in the United States, that the sympathy to the Palestinian a cause, or the sympathy to the Palestinian struggle. It started a long time ago, but people that never ever try to analyze what the situation is, or to learn the history of the situation and the conflict, but took the side of them because they thought, well, they're suffering because Israel is big and strong. Israel would
Hmm.
not be big and strong; it wouldn't be here. And I'm
Yeah.
tired of giving excuses to why I exist. I'm
Yeah.
really tired. But I have no other option. There is no other place in the world for me.
Yeah. One of the words that gets used, the first word that we talked about was genocide. The other one is apartheid. There's the claim that
That
Israel is
drives
an
me nuts.
apartheid nation.
Even as
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm
Mhm.
stopping you in the middle of the sentence. That
Go.
drives me
Yeah.
nuts. Apartheid means that there are people in the same country, in the same citizenship, that some of them have no rights or less rights, and some of them have all rights, or somebody is taking a whole group and putting them under different rights, less rights or different rights. There is no existence of that in Israel.
Hmm.
Arab Israelis that have citizenship in Israel have all the rights and all the obligations. They don't go to the military as a law. They're not drafted
Hmm.
by the law, but they are volunteering. There are people that are volunteering amongst the Arabs to go to the military, the Israeli military. Almost 90% of the Christian Arab boys go to the military in Israel on a volunteer basis.
Hmm.
And but those are Israelis. They are Israeli Arabs. They don't have different rights. They don't have secondary rights. There are no aparts between them
Yeah.
and us. The only thing that there is in this land is that people that are not citizens don't have the rights of a citizen.
Yeah.
And if they're living in the West Bank and they're part of the Palestinian Autonomy, they don't have Israeli rights because they're living in the Palestinian Autonomy.
Yeah.
And I'm not in charge of their rights. The people in Gaza have a third border. They have one border is the sea, the other two borders is Israel, north and east. North is 8 miles, and the eastern border of them is 40 miles. But the southern border is with Egypt.
Mm.
Israel does not surround the Gaza Strip. They could go to Egypt, and that's where they brought all the missiles and all the weapon and all the goods that they used against us so brutally. And so when people are talking about apartheid about Israel, it's 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 not true. But what can you
Yeah.
say? It's simply not true. You ask any Israeli if he wants to live in any country in the world, where would he choose? He'll say in Israel. You ask Israeli Arab, they'll get the same answer. In
And
Israel.
if a woman lived in Palestine and then crossed over into Israel and became a citizen, she would have much more rights than she currently has as
She would not only she have much more rights, she'll have rights.
yes, she would have rights in general. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had to
If you're a Christian Palestinian and you want to pray on the Temple Mount, you cannot,
yeah.
because you're a
Yeah.
Christian. Doesn't matter if you're a Jew or if you're a Christian. If you're a Christian, you're not allowed pray on the Temple Mount. If you're a Palestinian Christian, you cannot pray on the Temple Mount.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I remember when we were up on Temple Mount and you're showing us here's where the temple used to be, and there was somebody screaming, yelling, and it seemed like a very heated debate going on. And then you kind of laughed and say we do this every day, where he was denying that there was ever a Jewish temple on this spot, and that was his job.
Or a temple.
A temple, yes. There was never a temple there.
There was never a temple.
And that's part of the propaganda of just denying that Israel ever existed on this land before. That there's just
that there was anything before Islam.
Yes.
There's
So
only
there's just a
Islam.
flat out rejection that time began when Islam began.
Or the other way, Islam began when time began.
Yes. Yeah. Doron, we were having some technical difficulties before this started, so we had to switch to Zoom. And Zoom let me know that I only have 7.5 minutes left, or it's going to close our meeting. So I want to make the best of this 7.5 minutes that we have together. I wish we could probably talk about this for an hour. The other word that gets used is that Israel is a colonizer. Just give us a brief history on that.
Okay. The concept of Israel as a colonizer is that the Western world gave the Jews the land over here, and it was taken away from its authentic settlers. And I can easily debate that, and I can easily show you how there was not a Palestine before that, but there was an Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire couldn't care less about this place. In the 1500s, the Islamic Ottoman Empire is taking over, and they did a surveying of who is living there because of taxation. And it already proved at that time that most of the land was empty, and the majority within the 4 big cities were Jews. Hebron, Jerusalem, Safed, Tiberias, the majority of them were Jews. It doesn't matter for them. It doesn't matter for them. The fact that the Turks were Islamic and it was a Muslim ground, that is what was taken in World War I. World War I, the British took over, the French took over, and the result is that it became a territory held by the British mandate and the French mandate. And the British at one point are offering the Arabs the domination of the Middle East. We'll give you a kingdom, they say to the leader of the Saudis, and each one of your 4 sons is going to get his own statehood. But Islam does not have state. They didn't understand that. Islam does not have state because it's all a Muslim world. And so the Saudis agreed to the division according to a territory held by one of the 4 brothers. And that's how the borders were established between Saudi, Jordan, Syria, and Egypt. And the result was 4 kings. Now, the only problem is that they offered this little strip between the Jordan River and the sea to 2 people. They told the Arabs, you're going to have it. No Palestinians, Arabs. They told the Arabs, you're going to get it. They told the Jews, you're going to get it. And you cannot sell the same donkey to 2 people. It's difficult. And the British enabled the Jews to build up their establishment over here. And there was a struggle. There was a fight against the British. There was an Arab fight against the British as well. The result was that the British lost interest since they lost India in 46. And in 48 they left, but they lost it already in 46. So they left it. They left India, and they lost interest of this place as a guideline, as a direction to India. And the result was eventually that in 1948 the British are moved out of here by the United Nations. The United Nations on the 29th of November, coming up soon, of 1947, had the partition decision to part this country after 6 months of testing and checking up, to divide it between Arab territory and Israeli territory. The Arab territory will be given to those states that I told you about: Jordan, Egypt, Syria, and Lebanon was established a little bit later. And some of the territory will be held by the Jews. And David Ben-Gurion, the prime minister of the going to be state of Israel, and said, we have to agree. It's not what we want, but we have to agree in order to have the place for our people and for our refugees from the Holocaust to come to. And the result was that the Arabs did not agree to that. The Arab countries did not agree to that. So the partition decision was debated by them and not accepted by them. And therefore, 1948, the War of Independence, as soon as the British left, the war started. But it started 3 years before that as a confrontations between, and a conflict started before that. Anyway, the result of that is that 1949, the end of the war, Israel was established in borders bigger than the partition decision. And the reason that we're called colonized, because we came here for them into Arab territory. The return to our homeland, etc., does not mean a thing for them, because there was nothing before Islam. We just established that before. Remember? And so for them, the fact that the people are returning to their homeland, it's the land of the Jews, and the majority of the world accepted that in the partition decision, and the United Nations gave us, and plus, not to forget, 82% of this land was purchased by Jewish money. The land itself, the soil, was purchased
from Arab nations, correct?
So from Arab people
who
Scottish
did not live
people,
here,
from whoever was over here. I mean, there's Church of Scotland sold land, Turks sold land, Egyptians that had land sold land, and 82% of the land was purchased. The only thing is that there were people living on those lands as a feudal land of those people, and they pay rent for this one. They say, no, we'll pay rent for the Jews. They say, no, the Jews want to settle the land, not to just buy it. Not property. And that started a different conflict, a local conflict. But the fact is that we're looked upon by the Arabs as colonizing, not because of the state of Israel not legitimized by the world, but not legitimized by the Islamic movement. And that's why we're called colonized.
Doron, it's going to cut us off here, and we have less than a minute. I need to have you back on. Maybe in a week or two, we can come back and we can discuss.
Anytime. Maybe I'll be more free in my mind than I am now.
No, it's great. Thank you so much. We're praying for you. Send me that link, and we'll send as many people as we can to support those that you support. We know you have a lot of friends that are going to be hurting during this time. I hope this education was useful to our listeners, and I think we just need to continue to get the word out that there is a different perspective, and allow people to, as Scripture says, test all things. Test all things. Hold on to the good. Let go of every kind of evil.
Amen. In God we trust.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.